You twist the key and step into what was supposed to be your California dream. Sun on the windshield, palm shadows sliding across cracked sidewalks, and a for sale sign squealing in a dry wind that smells faintly of dust and hot asphalt. The sky is bright, but the mood isn't. It feels like the whole market is holding its breath, like the air before a storm that never cools the street, only presses heavier against your chest. Mortgage rates have climbed like a tide you can't outrun. Insurers are retreating from risk, and sellers who once ruled the block are suddenly blinking first. In some cheaper California cities, prices are slipping 15%, 20%, even pushing 30% off their pandemic-era highs. Yet, payments still crush budgets. The sunshine is real, but the stability is evaporating. Subscribe to Market Signal Real Estate right now, because this countdown is a warning flare. And we're starting at number 10, with the clock already ticking. Source number 10, Bakersfield, California. You roll in under a wide, bleached blue sky where the mountains look close enough to touch, and the roads feel built for movement. Trucks, commuters, people chasing space. Bakersfield used to be the affordable escape hatch from coastal prices. Now that reputation is cracking. Bakersfield's surge peaked in 2022, when pandemic migration and remote work money pushed typical single-family prices into the mid-400,000s. It was known for square footage, yards, and a faster path to ownership than Los Angeles or Orange County could ever offer. Now the numbers turn concerning. Redfin shows a recent median sale price around $415,000, while Zillow's Home Value Index sits near $389,000, below the frenzy-era highs. Redfin also shows median price per square foot, around $222, and notes homes averaging 52 days on market, up from about 42 last year. That slowdown matters because it fuels price cuts. Statewide, Redfin reports roughly 17.5% of listings had price drops late in 2025, and Bakersfield is feeling that gravity. When sales pace weakens, investors step back too. CoreLogic reporting investors share nationally and regionally, becoming more selective as yields compress. Source. Higher interest rates have turned cheap into still expensive, and insurance costs are rising with California's broader coverage stress. The result is a market unraveling at the edges. As you leave Bakersfield behind, the sunshine stays, but the certainty doesn't. This is a soft slide, with harder drops ahead. Number 9, Fresno, California. You enter Fresno with winter haze hanging low over the valley, sunlight diffused like a dimmer switch turned down. This city long carried the image of steady demand, families, agriculture, healthcare, an honest market that didn't play coastal games. But the ground is shifting. Fresno's market momentum crested in 2022, when affordability relative to the Bay Area and remote work relocations pulled prices into the low to mid $400,000. The appeal was simple: jobs, central location, and room to breathe. Today, the data is troubling. Redfin shows a median sale price around $379,000, and Zillow's Fresno home value figure sits near $382,000, both off their peak heat. Redfin reports Fresno homes averaging about 58 days on market, a slowdown that changes negotiations. Realtor.com's market pages show rents and sales trends flattening as supply competes harder for tenants and buyers. Meanwhile, Redfin's statewide share of listings with price drops, about 17.5% late in 2025, signals sellers are increasingly forced to blink. Combine that with a wider California job market that's absorbing layoffs and uncertainty, and buyer confidence thins. Source Fresno's pressure points are concentrated. Higher borrowing costs, wage growth that can't keep up with payments, and rising insurance stress across California's risk map. As you pull away, Fresno feels like a rope, fraying, still holding, but fibers snapping one by one. Number 8, Stockton, California. You cross into Stockton where the air turns cooler and heavier near the Delta, And the streets feel like a crossroads. Bay Area commuters, logistics routes, and older neighborhoods with proud bones. Stockton was once pitched as a comeback story. Now, it reads like a warning label. Stockton's pandemic-era peak hit in 2022, when Bay Area spillover demand and cheap money drove prices sharply upward. The city's value near the bay narrative pulled buyers inland at speed. But the numbers are getting alarming. Realtor.com lists Stockton with a median home sale price around $450,000 and notes year-over-year pricing pressure in the negatives, signaling a market that's no longer lifting all boats. Stacker's 2025 recap for Stockton shows a much higher aggregated median, near $539,000 earlier in the year, an illustration of how volatile and timing-dependent this market has become. Redfin's broader reporting on record price drop activity underscores that sellers are cutting to meet a skittish buyer pool. When buyers vanish, reductions spread like cracks in glass. And when reductions spread, the comps that once supported high appraisals start evaporating. Source Stockton's drivers are harsh. Affordability shock as rates rise, commuter demand cooling as remote work patterns normalize, and a buyer pool squeezed by broader California job volatility. As you exit Stockton, the market feels like a bridge under strain, still standing, but vibrating with every passing step. Number 7. San Bernardino, California. You drop into San Bernardino beneath a sun that should feel comforting, but doesn't. Because the hills look dry and the streets look tired. This was supposed to be the Inland Empire bargain, the place where Southern California ownership stayed possible. Now, the bargain is bruised. San Bernardino's run-up peaked around 2022 with the broader SoCal surge. Buyers, priced out of Los Angeles, chased more space east, and low rates inflated what people could afford on paper. The city's appeal was proximity, close enough to work centers, cheaper than the coast. Now the signals flash red. Redfin shows a median sale price around $495,000 and a median sale price per square foot near $349, numbers that collide with higher payments when rates sit elevated. Redfin's statewide stats show days on market around the low 50s and price drops rising, a pattern that filters straight into Inland Empire listings. Investors are also recalibrating. CoreLogic reporting investor behavior becoming more selective, while affordability remains strained statewide. And property taxes don't help. Proposition 13 caps the base at 1% assessed value, but local bonds and assessments can lift effective totals, especially for newer tracts. Source, San Bernardino's squeeze is a three-part vice. Elevated rates, persistent living cost inflation, and insurance risk pressures that keep climbing across California. As you leave, the market doesn't just cool, it crumbles at the edges, where affordable can't survive the math much longer. Number 6. Riverside, California. You arrive in Riverside with warm light spilling over citrus country history and newer master plan sprawl. A city that once felt like the Inland Empire's stable anchor. For years, Riverside carried the reputation of safe growth. Now the stability looks thinner. Riverside's pandemic-era crest came in 2022, powered by remote work reshuffles, low rates, and relentless Southern California demand. Buyers were willing to trade commutes for keys, and prices followed. But the conditions are worsening. Redfin shows a recent median sale price around $640,000 and an average of roughly 52 days on market, time that signals buyers are no longer rushing. As days rise, price cuts spread. Redfin's statewide data shows about 17.5% of listings posting price drops late in 2025, which is fuel for negotiation and comp erosion. Investor behavior also shifts when the exit math turns brutal. CoreLogic's reporting on investor participation nationally shows sensitivity to financing conditions. And taxes add weight. Proposition 13 sets the base, but Riverside County acknowledges additional special assessments like Mello-Roos fees that stack on top of the 1% rule. Costs that hit monthly budgets like an invisible second mortgage. Source Riverside's contributing factors are sharp. Higher effective tax burdens in many tracts, rate-driven affordability collapse, and a cooling buyer pipeline as job uncertainty spreads across California. As you drive out, Riverside feels like plaster starting to flake. Still a structure, but the surface is peeling fast. If you're finding this data-driven analysis useful, like the video and comment which city surprises you most. Your engagement helps us continue this research. Number 5. California City. California. You enter California City, and the landscape turns stark. Wide streets, open desert, and a wind that whistles through empty stretches like the place was built for a population that never fully arrived. It once promised affordability with upside. Now it feels like oversupply made visible. The market's modern peak aligned with the 2022 frenzy, when even far-flung desert communities caught investor attention and first-time buyers chased anything with a lower price tag. The growth story leaned on entry-level California and space. Now the data turns ugly. Redfin shows California City's median selling price around $278,000 recently, and reports year-over-year declines that can hit double digits in certain months, a sign of a market losing altitude quickly. In a place where demand is thinner to begin with, a slowdown doesn't just cool, it hollows out. When listings sit, reductions become routine, and comps fall in stairsteps. Redfin's broader reporting on record, price drop activity nationwide, and elevated price drops in California fits this profile. Sellers competing against each other in a market where buyers can wait. Source. California City's drivers are blunt, limited job base, demand that depends on cheap financing, and a built environment that can feel like more inventory than community. As you leave, the market feels like sand slipping through fingers, quiet, but relentlessly collapsing. Number 4. Lancaster, California. You climb into the Antelope Valley where the sky looks enormous, and the wind carries grit across the road, scraping at car doors like impatience. Lancaster used to be pitched as a value frontier for LA workers. Now, the frontier looks exposed. Lancaster's peak arrived around 2022, when spillover demand and low rates pushed buyers to accept distance in exchange for a deed. The city's desirability was built on price relief, newer subdivisions, and commuter logic. Now the signals turn harsher. Realtor.com's California market pages show Lancaster among cities with large rental inventory counts and rents that don't always justify purchase prices at today's borrowing costs. When rent growth can't keep pace with mortgage payments, investors retreat and owners lose their safety net. Redfin's statewide picture, days on market in the 50s, and an elevated share of listings cutting price, creates the same pressure here. Longer listing times, more concessions, and a buyer pool that negotiates like it expects weakness. Affordability isn't a slogan anymore. It's a calculation, and the calculation is turning crushing. Source Lancaster's main factors are straightforward. Commute-driven demand cooling, higher rates detonating purchasing power, and insurance stress across California that raises the cost of ownership beyond the mortgage. As you pull out, Lancaster feels like a mirage fading, the promise of easy entry evaporating under brutal financing reality. Number 3. Kern County, California. You drift through Kern County under a hard sun that makes everything look overexposed. Oil rigs, agricultural flats, subdivisions stitched into the edges. This region is often treated as California's bargain bin. But bargains can turn into traps. The county's pandemic-era crest hit around 2022, when buyers priced out of the coast rushed inland and investors hunted yield. Growth came from migration, construction, and the belief that the valley would always be the fallback. Now it's getting severe. Realtor.com's Kern County page shows a median home sale price around $280,000 and a median rent near $1,800. Numbers that sound friendly, until you factor in high financing costs and living expenses that never stayed cheap. When rates sit high, even a $280,000 home can produce a monthly payment that breaks the affordable narrative. Redfin's statewide data shows elevated days on market and price drops that rise as sellers outnumber buyers. When that imbalance hits a lower-priced region, sellers can't rely on scarcity to protect them, so they cut and cut again. Source Kern's biggest drivers are economic sensitivity and demand fragility, jobs tied to cyclical sectors, buyers dependent on financing, and the broader California insurance and cost of living squeeze. As you move on, it feels like the market is hemorrhaging quietly. No headlines, just numbers deteriorating month by month. Number 2. Central Valley, California. You head deeper into the Central Valley, where fog can sit like a lid in the morning, and the afternoon heat hits like a hammer. This region carried California through the affordability crisis, until the crisis followed it inland. The peak heat arrived in 2022, when remote work, coastal displacement, and cheap credit turned reasonable into rising fast. The valley's draw was space, family housing, and prices that made ownership feel possible. Now it's devastating. Realtor.com's Central Valley market page shows a median home sale price around $280,000 and a median rent near 1,275s. An imbalance that tells a brutal story. Rents don't always support the cost of buying at today's rates, and that crushes investor math. Redfin's statewide metrics show longer days on market and a meaningful share of listings taking price drops, signaling sellers are competing for fewer qualified buyers. Meanwhile, California's job market has been absorbing heavy job cuts. The Los Angeles Times reported the state led the nation in job losses in 2025, adding pressure to household confidence and mobility. Source Central Valley weakness concentrates in three forces: affordability collapse at higher rates, wage growth lagging payments, and job insecurity that freezes moves and slows demand. As you drive out, the market feels like it's collapsing inward, like a roof sagging before it finally gives. Number 1. Bakersfield, zip 93305, California. You return to Bakersfield, but this time you turn off the main roads and into a zip code reality where the heat feels sharper and the tension is visible. This is where cheap California meets the hardest version of the slowdown. Local declines that hit like a punch, not a headline. The peak was the same 2022 mania, when even entry-level neighborhoods got swept into bidding wars and stretched comps. The promise was simple: buy now, refinance later, watch values rise. Now the collapse is explicit. Redfin shows that in 93305, median prices were down about 12.7% year-over-year in late 2025, with a median around $275,000. Proof that the downturn isn't evenly spread. It targets the most payment-sensitive segments first. When entry-level buyers get priced out by rates, the bottom of the ladder starts to wobble. Add Redfin's broader reporting on price drops hitting record-like levels, and the pattern becomes brutal. Listings sit, reductions multiply, and appraisals follow the new lower comps. This isn't a gentle correction. It's the floor shifting under the whole structure. Source. The drivers are crushing: high-rate affordability shock, rising ownership costs, and demand that breaks fastest where incomes have the least slack. As you leave this neighborhood behind, the market doesn't just unravel. It snaps, and the sound carries across every affordable California map. We counted down 10 cheaper California destinations and found the same pattern repeating: longer listing times, rising price cuts, and affordability math that keeps getting uglier. What looked like a sunny shortcut into home ownership is, in many places, a tightening corridor. The crisis theme is simple. When rates stay high and living costs climb, the entry-level and inland markets absorb the impact first. And when insurance stress and job uncertainty stack on top, the housing market stops behaving like a ladder and starts behaving like a trapdoor. If you're navigating this, market don't guess. Track the data and move with precision. Subscribe, like the video, and comment the one city you want us to deep dive next. Until next time, stay sharp, stay skeptical, and I'll see you in the next report.